The low vital is the part of our being which is concerned and occupied with the outer things. Its movements are experienced as hungers, cravings, small desires, impulses, and enjoyments. It is a playful enjoyer of sensory pleasures. It prefers to stay within the zone of physical comforts. However, it is fickle and impulsive and gets carried away by temptations. There are many marketing tricks designed to tempt this part of our being. It seeks new sensations. It demands immediate satisfaction of its impulses. Quarrels, jealousies, envy, and petty angers are its movements. Our likes and dislikes, attractions and repulsions are its contribution. Greed and lust are its perverse movements. In general, it is obscure, ignorant, egoistic, selfish, impulsive, random, turbulent, and undisciplined. It often hijacks reason. It revolts against discipline. It is also the seat of all our fears. Fears arise from here and grip other parts of our being. Many traditions have tried to demonize the low vital. The ascetic denial is a common way. But integral yoga demands not a denial, but a mastery over the lower vital and its transformation. The first step towards such mastery is to stand back from the lower vital impulses and observe it with detachment. Then, to bring it under the control of reason. The next step is to develop equanimity towards all sensations. Further, the senses can be refined through beauty and aesthetic delight. When the psychic influence permeates the lower vital, it opens to a deeper transformation and refinement. A greater transformation happens when the descending higher consciousness establishes perfect equanimity and equal delight in all experiences. The central vital is the most dynamic expression of the life force in us. Its movements are experienced in the region of the navel. A strong central vital is one that is full of life force and has great energy. It is courageous and heroic. It is ambitious. Unlike the lower vital, it is not bound by comforts or sensory pleasures. It is daring and adventurous. A large, expansive movement is natural to it. It brings generosity in giving. It has the drive for leadership and domination. It brings the urge to expand and conquer. It throws itself out in the wider movements of life. It is responsive to the greater objects of nature. It is a force for action and creation, a power to fulfill and materialize. It brings forth the competitive spirit. It is ruthless. The central vital brings a stupendous play of passions into life. The fury of anger, wrath, and revenge are its blazing intensities. It drives us to seek power and status in society. It is the seat of strong desires and passions. This energy is like a wild horse. It brings impatience and restlessness into our action. The yogic process seeks to tame and master this great energy of nature. The main difficulty of the central vital is the pride of its ego and the attraction of its powers. It is often difficult for such a vital to surrender itself because of this sense of its own powers. The power of reason and strong self-discipline are helpful in mastering the central vital, but not sufficient. It is necessary to detach from its strong movements. This would enable us to reject its strong waves gripping the mind. Equanimity over its movements is a necessary condition. However, to transform the central vital, it must come under the influence of the psychic. In the later stages of yoga, the descending higher consciousness takes up and transforms the central vital into a divine instrument. The development and mastery of the central vital brings a great abundance of steady and inexhaustible energy. The higher vital is the emotional being in us. It covers the field of emotions rather than sensations and desire. It is the seat of all our feelings experienced in the heart region. Our love and joy, sorrow and grief, hopes and despair are the easily observable movements of the higher vital. It brings the thirst of emotional intimacy and bonding. In human relationships, emotional intimacy easily moves towards the sensual intimacy that is a lower vital movement. Family spaces are the most common playground of the emotional being. Emotionalism and sentimentality are the common expressions of the higher vital. This emotional being is responsible for our emotional attachments and vulnerability. Our emotions are habitual waves. Their action is largely regulated by emotive memory. They can be changed by conscious will. The deformations of the emotional being come from the duality of emotional attractions and repulsions. It gets more complex when it is mixed with the lower and central vital desires and drives. All this further invades the intelligent will of the mind and often makes it a helpless slave of the emotions. A vigilant rejection of these mixtures is a necessary step in the purification of the mind and emotions. Charity and selfless service, or seva, are the common methods used by many to broaden the heart and its emotions. Humanitarian works are its natural domains. However, all these are still an outward turn of the emotional being. Integral yoga demands an inward turn to find the soul within. Compared to the lower and central vital, the higher vital is much easier to surrender. The more it gets influenced by the psychic, the more the emotional being gets refined. The yoga of love, bhakti yoga, turns the emotional being towards the divine and seeks intimacy and union with the divine. When the heart is purified, the vital emotions change into psychic feelings. By opening upward to the descending force and its peace, calm, and equanimity, the emotional being undergoes spiritual transformation. The purified heart has a universal love. It can receive with an untroubled sweetness and clarity the various delights which God gives it in the world. The mind deals with our cognition and intelligence. The mental vision and will are part of this intelligence. It can envision future possibilities. It can interpret the past. It can see the flow of time from the past to the future. The mind lives in its thoughts and ideas of the past, present, and the future. Its movements are experienced in the head. The human mind has an evolutionary past. It has emerged in the context of the body, animated by the life force. Both the physical and the vital have their corresponding parts in the mind. The physical part of the mind has an outward turn through the senses. The vital part of the mind views everything through its emotions and desires. It is only in the mind proper that intelligence and will are free from limitations of the senses, emotions, and desires. In our normal state, all these three parts are mixed up. Their operations are to be clearly distinguished. However, this is only a surface consciousness. There is a vast subliminal inner mind behind this surface. There are also the spiritual ranges of the mind above. All this together constitute the full spectrum of the mind. In our normal waking state, we access only the surface parts. The physical mind, as the name suggests, is a composite of both mental and physical consciousness. It has two parts. Physical involved in the mind creates the physical mental or the externalizing mind. It is occupied with the externalization of the mind. The mind involved in the physical creates the mental physical. It is the mechanical or habitual mind. The externalizing mind is part of the mental consciousness, whereas the mental physical is part of the physical consciousness. They are closely tied and work together. The physical mind may mean any one of these two or both together. However, the externalizing mind is part of the mind proper. This part externalizes the mind through speech. It is an instrument of ordered action on physical things. It has a practical mentality based on the outer world experience. This part deals intelligently with physical things, but its reasoning depends on objective facts. It can even arrive at objective truths of the physical world that cannot be seized by our senses. Experimental physics and the knowledge thus gathered is a vast extension of this part of the physical mind. But when it has to deal with supraphysical things, it becomes incompetent. The physical mind thinks of God and spirit as abstract concepts. Even when it has spiritual experiences, finds it difficult to believe them and forgets them easily. It lives in rigid thought formulas and habitual grooves of thought. Narrowness and doubt are the chief defects of the physical mind. The lower part of the physical mind is the mind involved in physical consciousness. It is the mental physical or the mechanical mind. This part is closely tied to the externalizing mind. When left to itself, it will simply go on repeating past customary thoughts, ideas, and reactions. It is habitual and mechanical. It is animated by the physical consciousness, not the rational intelligence. It simply stores, associates, repeats, gives reflexes and reactions to outward contacts of life. The mechanical mind is necessary for the maintenance of things gained through the outer life experiences. It is by conservation and repetition that nature does that. The subconscient is the basis of conservation. and the mechanical mind is the means of repetition.
Let's rejoice, because the absolute insanity we are experiencing is an illusion, which is forcing more and more people to awaken. However, we must have compassion for those who are incapable of awakening, because the mRNA injections have created a separation from the individual soul. The only way out of the illusion is absolute non-compliance. I am not interested in survival, which leads to inevitable death, with reincarnation back into this virtual reality simulation. I choose to live at all cost. The courageous ones have consciously chosen to get out of the illusion and will continue the evolution of consciousness on the ascending crystal spiral. Consider viewing the many videos I have created on the time wave spirals. I know my jail experience was a blessing, because it forced me to leave Canada and what was perceived as a perfect life of a very successful dentist and mother of 2 wonderful children. I accessed the courage within me, abandoned myself to my soul, and jumped into the complete unknown. Today, I'm able to offer guidance to those who choose life in Colombia or Ecuador. A long-term stay at Cascada Café Retiro is $400 per month. I also offer reconstructive dentistry at a very affordable price. Finally, I am guided by the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga goes beyond individual liberation and embarks on a collective transformation on earth. After Sri Aurobindo's passing, the Mother continued their work, and on February 29, 1956, she brought down the supramental consciousness upon earth. Since then, the supermind has been operational on earth as an active evolutionary power. A new phase of evolution has begun amid the collapse of the old world. Integral yoga is an invitation to take part in an unprecedented adventure of consciousness. Will you join us? Infinite love.